Hello. Happy Tuesday. I hope your day has been wonderful so far. We're just waiting for Diana to pop in here. She'll be on. There she is. Hello. I'm singing. Just letting Diana join us. There she is. I'm singing for some reason.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Diana. Good, how are you? In the other opposite office, just next door to me. Hi, Phil. That's my cousin, Phil. Love you. We are going to have a wonderful conversation today, all about dispelling myths, vulvovaginal health, our, perspective of health here at our clinic space, and really, what opportunities women have to work with you to go a bit deeper. Because, see, what people don't realize is that, this is a really long, well, maybe you do realize, but you don't know what to do about it. This is a really long journey in terms of how we reclaim our health and well-being and feel like we're thriving. And we need the opportunity to integrate and embody everything that we learn from our clinicians. And you are next level in your expertise and your thoroughness. And we want to make sure we give every person an opportunity to collaborate and learn and connect with you. So
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. So I'm Dr. Diana
might not
Castleman.
know you yet.
I'm a naturopathic doctor here at the Poppy Clinic, so you'll definitely see me around. I'm also a facilitator of the Wild Collective here at Poppy. So I have a focus in women's health. I see a lot of women in perimenopause, menopause. I also see a lot of women in their 20s and 30s who are looking for support with their hormones and with their vaginal and vulvar symptoms. And I think one of the things that inspired me to talk about this today is because I've been having so many conversations in office recently about vulvovaginal health, and it just reminded me, right, of like how many myths we still have to dispel in the field, even when it comes to care, right, of how we should be caring for our vulvas and vaginas, or like what is normal, what is not normal, right, in terms of discharge, things like that. And I love having these conversations because, again, this is the education that we don't get, right? We don't get taught this. And so we sort of just get passed down maybe beliefs from the women in our families or whatever the case is, but may not actually be true. So yeah, I'm excited for today's conversation.
Yeah, well, what you were saying to me this morning is that the breast health and vaginal health is your favorite module in the Wild Collective. Like, I was like, of course it is. It's a huge area of focus for you. So why don't we just dive on in? What are some of the myths and things that women are not informed about with respect to
Yeah,
their health,
there's definitely a
vaginal
lot of
health, and
myths to
access to
dispel.
care?
Number one, which I'm sure you've talked to a lot of patients too, Michelle, is that water is actually enough to clean the vulvar area and and the vagina. So just actually, I actually forgot my model at home today because I was going to bring my vulva model. But anyways, when I talked about the vagina is the muscular tube, right? That's located, that connects the uterus to the outside opening of the vulva. So when we talk about vulva, that includes the outer labia, the opening of the urethra, the opening of the vagina, the clitoris. That's all considered the vulva. So just to reference that when we're talking today. But yeah, water is more than enough. Now, I know for some of my patients, it seems really like they can't do it. They can't just use water because historically they've always used some sort of soap or like pH balancers, right? Like pH balancers are huge when we think about, like your, vagina vulva has to be a certain pH. So if that's the case, if like, let's say culture's been difficult just to use water, then I will recommend like a hypoallergenic soap, something that's really gentle to use that doesn't have any like scents and perfumes, things like that. Because again, that's what can really disrupt the local area. So just like we have a gut microbiome, we actually have a vaginal ecosystem as well, right? That we need to keep really healthy. And so again, if you've maybe been exposed to antibiotics a lot recently, that's another thing to consider. Like we want to bring in some great probiotics within the area too, especially if you've been exposed to antibiotics, because that really can disrupt that vaginal flora. So that's quite a big one that I talk to a lot of my patients about. And then of course with tampons and pads and different menstrual products that you may be using, it's another really big one there that we want to make sure we're using products that are, again, not bleached, that are organic, that don't have other scented perfumes or things involved. But I think like really the big one that surprises a lot of people is not using any soap. Like Vulva is a self-cleaning oven, and really water is more than enough to clean it. Yeah.
Mhm. And the thing I think a lot of people find really interesting when we deliver this module is that, or it's even the menstrual module, but there's no federal regulation on these products. So unless we're informed, we actually don't know what is safe and not safe to use in our body. And that's really important from an environmental health standpoint and overall health and well-being. So I think that's a really good thing that you bring up. A thing I saw early in clinical practice, and I know you can speak to this, is women who are postmenopausal and the frequent urinary tract infections and that microbiome alteration that happens as a result of falling hormones. These are things, irrespective of a woman's age, she needs to know about, because this is a massive problem. I saw it all the time in my clinical practice, and I saw it even before we had access to ways to actually hormonally support women. So like, can you speak to this a little bit, and like why women need to know this information?
Yeah, for sure.
No matter what their
So
age,
post
they know how to
menopause,
advocate for themselves in
we
the future.
can see a lot of urinary tract infections that become really common in women, and that's actually a direct cause of the loss of estrogen. So again, estrogen is really integral in maintaining that vaginal microbiome, so to speak. And so when we start to lose estrogen, we're actually at increased risk of pathogens. So I'll see women, on chronic antibiotics, but actually the treatment for that would be to do a local vaginal estrogen, which would be that preventative approach, right? So that's definitely a big one that I see in practice as well, where we can avoid those chronic antibiotic use. And again, women will become resistant to them, right? So at some point they stop working, especially if you're on them for quite a bit. So that's definitely like post-menopause. Care can also change, but again, that's something women can experience in perimenopause too, right? So you don't like have to wait to be officially postmenopausal to use something like a vaginal estrogen. Oh, there's so many. I actually one that I really wanted to talk about today, because like Michelle mentioned, this is like my favorite module in the Wild Collective, and the reason I love it so much is because every single thing we're talking about, women are like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. Like, and we're also talking about things, again, that you're not having conversations like this with your girlfriends or other people around your life, and we really go deep with it. So one common myth as it pertains to also pleasure and sexual health is this idea of women who are quote unquote loose. And I really do not like this term, but it's definitely a term we've all heard, right? Like for especially women, if you've had kids or maybe even your partner has told you that you're no longer tight in the area and now you are loose, right? So I like to really dispel this myth, because there's actually no physical way to indicate how many times you've had sex with someone or how many babies you've had. Again, the vagina is a muscular tube. It is meant to distend. It works that way. So there is no actual way to assess like sort of the tightness of your vagina. Now, that's very different than doing pelvic floor physiotherapy, right? Because pelvic floor physiotherapy is looking at the pelvic muscles, and it's not just looking at tightness, but it can look at many different aspects. So it's a very different conversation. I do love pelvic floor physiotherapists. I love what they do. And that's definitely something, that women can receive great treatment for. I'm specifically talking about the vagina and how it can often be labeled as loose. So that's definitely a myth I really like to dispel. The analogy that our colleague uses, Dr. Jordan Wiggins, she talks about it. It's like saying that you can tell how many times someone has put a fist in their mouth based on how loose their cheeks are, right? Like that's literally the analogy we're saying with the vagina. It doesn't happen. I think that actually is, in a way, like a huge relief for a lot of women, right? To be like, oh, okay, like, that's not actually happening. Because that's one that gets thrown around. And again, when we're not educated, we believe these things, right? That's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up something really important, and this perhaps is even why you love educating women on this module in particular, is that these parts of our body are like divinely feminine. They're quintessentially like unique to us, and we can feel a lot of shame, guilt. We can carry a lot of undue stress around lack of knowledge. With lack of education, we often misname our own female anatomy. And when women can take this power back and feel connected to their body in this capacity, it is wonderful to see how that can fuel confidence in other areas of their life, or fuel their ability to advocate. And I love sitting in a wild circle and watching women's jaws drop as they are educated appropriately about their body, and allowing them to ask questions and get curious so that they can be really deeply informed, because this information is so powerful for them to be able to reclaim parts of themselves that might be feeling bad about themselves, but then also being able to take their power back and be able to get care that they are so worthy and deserve in order to feel good in their body. Another thing that you brought up that I think is really important to highlight is, like you said, we get to go deep in these conversations. In a wild circle, we get to actually really unpack and talk about our relationship or our perspective on these, topics that we're bringing up. And I've had a lot of women in my life say to me, I have my family, I have my friends, and then
Someone's calling you. We can't hear you. Yeah, you're back. Yeah, you said women will say, like, I have my friends.
it can fuel, like, then you can have this special group of people where there's a really safe circle of trust in order to unpack and start to embody and integrate a new way of feeling connected to your body and to your health. And that is rare and unique in this space. And what we know is that when women are able to take this information, really have conversations on how they feel about it, and then implement, they are able to confidently show up in the world much more differently and feel very aligned and in their power. And this is vitally missing in the healthcare space. So I just needed to highlight those things, because I think you said some really important things that women don't know is out there. And like, when as a clinician, I was shocked at the level of shame and disconnection, and you can see it in a wild circle as well. As like, this is so much around this topic, and where are we having these conversations? Like, we're not otherwise, right? We're not bringing it up to our friends. Many women have not even so much.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point.
So like,
you read my mind, because literally one of my favorite activities that we'll do in this module is, we ask women, like, have you actually even looked at your vulva you know, and actually maybe taken a mirror and looked in there. And so many women have not. We're not even familiar with our own bodies there. And like exactly like you said, there's a lot of shame, and there could be many different reasons for that, whether it was religion or cultural, or, you know, there's so many things that are in this that influence this area of health. And that's one of my favorite things that we do, because then we'll do that homework and we'll sort of guide women into really starting to live their bodies in a deeper way and connecting to their bodies in a deeper way. And exactly like you said, it's just amazing to see how that influences other aspects of their life. It's, yes, it's about body literacy, but it's also about how that how you actually connect differently to yourself and to potentially your partner, right? In that way, which is beautiful. Like, I think it's such a beautiful exercise to do. So that's one of my favorite parts of the module. Yeah. I just want to make sure if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat as you come on. And then the other one I wanted to highlight, which again, I know you talk to your patients a lot about in practice, is the vaginal discharge, right? Like, a lot of women are unaware that their discharge they could be having could actually be normal, right? We have discharge that happens throughout different parts of our cycle. And again, we'll teach this in the menstrual cycle module. But oftentimes we just see something as discharge on our underwear as, again, something's off, something's wrong, right? So again, unless it's like a specific, it like has changed color to what you're normally used to, has the odor has changed, there's specific things and signs we're looking for. And again, I guide this in the module of what we're specifically looking for. But there is discharge that is normal, and it's part of like our follicular ovulation that discharge can change. And that's something that we really talk about as well. I think that's a big one. And I like I think this is also Jordan Wiggins that has said this, where she said, your vulva should smell like your vulva, not your grandmother's perfume. And I just thought that was so brilliant, because I think we've all maybe been in a situation where we're like, does this even smell like it should smell, right? Like, these are the conversations that we need to be having, that I truly, the reason I love talking about it is because for so many people I know it's really taboo. But I really want to sort of dispel those myths that women experience. So that's
the only way we can get comfortable is leadership who's willing to bring up the conversation and face it head on, right? Otherwise, we're all going to be like, is this normal? I don't know. It's amazing to me, 7 years in, sitting in Wild Circle, still how many women's stories are like a 1 or 2 sentence, like, oh, that's just your period, here's some pads. Like, there was no formal education as to what was happening to their body. Like, it was all shocking. So you can't even imagine that no one was having the discussion about vaginal discharge. And really, that is a vital sign of health for women. It's a vital sign of fertility and ovulation. And there's so many metrics that we can understand our body better and how our body speaks to us when we actually have the articulation of knowing what we're looking for. And that can be so empowering, because now I can come into the office and see you and be like, Diana, I've been tracking my cycle for 3 months, and here's what I've noticed, and this is what you taught me about vaginal discharge, and this isn't matching up. Like, could there be something going on here? And I'm also maybe having trouble conceiving or whatever. Like, it's so important. It's your body. There's probably no more important investment than understanding her with clarity. And never before has there been an opportunity where you've had access to 20 hours with a naturopathic doctor to have all your questions answered, but also like this time and space of integrative information that you wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. It's one of the most advantageous ways to access integrative health care information with an evidence-based practitioner to feel empowered. Like, this is so important from a public health standpoint. It's just, I think, really important to highlight that there are many benefits to sitting in a Wild Circle and understanding for the first time. Like,
exactly. So for those of you who don't know what we are speaking about when we're saying the Wild Circle, so we do have a 10-month women's health curriculum called the Wild Collective. And just like we were chatting today about vulvovaginal health, it's just literally touching the surface on really the topics that we get to discuss. And it's really like we see it as the foundation, right, to your health. So this is like one of the modules that we talk about. Each month is a different module. And this is my third year running it. And I absolutely love the program. Dr. Michelle Paris is the founder and creator of it. And I think it's just such a as Michelle said, a beautiful way to connect with other women on a deeper level at the same time while you're getting evidence-based health education around that really every woman deserves to know, right? Again, when we get more clarity with our bodies, we become almost like we become unstoppable, right? And I think that that's really a big part of what we love to see with respect to the woman that and the transformations that we see in this program. We literally start the next session on Thursday. It's on Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. So we connect once a month. I only run it once a year. So this is the time that I am running it. And I would love to have you join us if you feel called to a different way of getting healthcare delivery. I think, like I said, if you have never tried this way or at all curious about it, just message us. Like, we'd love to chat with you on how this could be a different path for you, because like I said, the amount of content that we cover is just so hard to be able to get in, even in a one-on-one visit, right? Because we just cover so many aspects of health. So we'll dive into like thyroid and digestion, sleep, blood sugar regulation. Like, there's so many aspects that we dive into, and it's the best way to get access to this kind of information.
Yeah, there's so many women who I know feel a bit nervous about what it would be like to sit in a circle, especially if, social connection with other women hasn't felt safe in the past. When they experience a wild circle, so many women come up to me after, like, where has this been my whole life? After one session, they understand the power of collaboration. And I just really want to highlight that power, because if any part of you feels a little nervous, that's a good thing. Like, lean in. That's a sign that you're being called into trying something different. And, we have 7 years of history to back what we're talking about. This is something we've been able to consistently support women in and watch them literally thrive and feel so confident in their approach and in their health, and becoming more intuitive and feeling like they're in their power. When you were talking about just the level of clarity, I know you know this too, but when we see women, the biggest barrier that gets in their way is they feel like a mystery to themselves. They feel like their symptoms or what's going on is like they can't figure out or connect the dots. And when we give you the vocabulary and the physiology and sort of the framework, you're able to start to put very powerful words behind what you've been feeling all along. You're actually quite intuitive, but no one's ever given you the vocabulary before. It's this empowering experience where you're like, no, I am like really in tune with her, and now I know how to properly advocate. And now I have this like incredible plan. Like, this is a really cool thing, is if you're in Ontario, you can also work with Dr. Diana one-on-one, and you can get this beautiful plan, individualized plan constructed for you. And then you have 20 hours, 10 months to implement and learn to prioritize your health and find a way that feels like an alignment for you. And when those two worlds are together, it really is so beautiful, because you actually feel like you're on an aligned healthcare journey where you feel empowered, informed, and inspired, and deeply supported. And those were literal gaps in the healthcare system prior to us having this in our own clinical space. So I just really want to highlight how powerful an opportunity this is to work with Diana. And she does only launch once a year. She's up to a lot of things, and We're lucky to have her for the next 10 months to be hosting this circle. She is truly the most thorough woman. She's so articulate and passionate. She loves educating women and sitting in a wild circle. And none of us take that responsibility lightly. So you will be supported. And if you have questions like you're not local, it's cool. We've got you. We've created a beautiful hybrid experience. So you will feel like you are in-house with us if you are globally somewhere else and feel very called. Recently, we've been attracting women all over the world to join our circle. And so we've doubled down on technology to ensure that we don't have to turn anyone away, and that when they're here, they have the same level of connected experience, because that's vitally important to us, for us to stay in our integrity. So
thanks for your beautiful words, Michelle. I think you summarized it so eloquently. I think if anyone has questions, don't hesitate to reach out. But I think you can both see our passion for this program. Like, we truly do care so much, and being able to provide that transformational care and not just transactional care. We really are looking for the transformation that women get to experience while they're on this journey. So if you have any questions, let us know. We are here for you. You can DM us. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Yeah, you deserve good health care, and we know how to deliver. So DM us and connect. Ask us any questions. We're available. It starts Thursday.
Bye, everyone.
And we'll see you very soon in our wild circle.